Good evening, America, and welcome to It's Happening Out, the world's most popular live gay television show. And it's 8 p.m. Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. I'm your host and moderator, Al Ferguson, and joining us tonight is our cast of characters, our host, Napoleon Plays,
Hey, everybody.
Power Infinity, Aaron Phoenix, Chef Josie, and Misty Eyez. Remember, we are live, which we've already proved to you, wink, wink, so anything can happen. This is kind of like a gay version of The View. So many of your stories, headlines, and conversation next on It's Happening Out.
This week on It's Happening Out.
I know that if I come out, my family and many of the people I've grown up with will disown me. I know people like this.
We make assumptions about people based on their sex. We decide who they are.
Just one night after they burned down the 3rd precinct. No law enforcement to be seen around 11 o'clock, but that soon changed.
Our new game, Saved by the Bell.
These two guys have come into these areas.
It's all happening out tonight. Join us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Special guest host, Misty Eyez. With your host, lifestyle expert Napoleon Plays. Reality TV star, Chef Josie. Trans activist, Aaron Phoenix. DJ Diva, Power Infinity. And our moderator, Al Ferguson. It all starts right now, live on It's Happening Out.
Well, welcome to It's Happening Out. It's Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. We are going to break right in with Happening Now, breaking news here at It's Happening Out. We report about a police open fire on a North Carolina gay bar, and while staff are handing out water to protesters. We've prepared a little setup of it. Watch this.
Chill out, don't be aiming at them. This is my business.
Tim.
This is my business. I rent this place. I rent here. I rent here. I rent this place. This is my business. This is my business.
I don't care where you go.
This is my business.
Move it. The game is over. Get out.
This is my business. This is my business.
Come on, Tim.
This week has seen dramatic events resulting in the murder of George Floyd. Protests have erupted in cities across the country, and it has affected the LGBT community, including a police officer calling a group of LGBTQ protesters fucking faggots. Now we report police opened fire on an LGBTQ bar in North Carolina after they received an anonymous tip that the bar was giving water bottles to protesters. Tim Lemuel is the owner of the Ruby Deluxe in Raleigh, North Carolina, and his business was vandalized with a white supremacist symbol, and the bar's glass doors and windows were broken. So on Sunday evening, he decided to stay at his business, in part to deter vandals. He also set up a first aid station for people who needed medical attention, washing tear gas and pepper spray out of people's eyes, and handing out water bottles and granola bars. He said that he and some staff were working there for about 7 hours before 6 police officers arrived and told them to move just after midnight. The mule advised the police officers that he owned the business. The police officers again told him to move, quote, saying, "The game is over, get out." The mule walked back toward his bar, and police said, "You've been told," and then opened fire with flashbangs and rubber bullets. The attack occurred on Monday night. Raleigh City Council member and Ruby Deluxe patron Sage Martin said, quote, "It's a safe place for so many people. It is home to queer folks." He added, referring to the Stonewall uprising, "We're still dealing with those same issues for those same people today." And hearing those words echo so aggressively as if they were a game to be had, I think it speaks perfectly well to the kind of culture and thinking that exists and pervades law enforcement in America today. Wow, what do y'all think about what we've just watched in Raleigh?
I want to say something about this because, listen, guys, I think I've been an activist for most of my life, and I've been involved in a lot of protests where police were involved. We have to recognize that in this moment, tensions are very, very high. And the fact is, this is the saddest moment probably in the history of our country. The mayor of Atlanta said to the people of Atlanta, "I tell my sons every night that in this moment, stay home because I cannot protect you." This is what she's then echoed to the residents of Atlanta. We have to understand, yes, it is our right to stand up. It is our constitutional right to protest. And in this moment, just see what you're putting yourself at risk, and you have to assume the risk. There is a lot of risk involved right now in this moment to protest. We already know that the cops, the culture is there in our law enforcement. And right now is not to test whether they're not, that's true.
This isn't a simple matter. It's not just about what's right in the protests versus what's right in what's going on. Obviously, these protests matter. Black lives matter. What's going on matters. Unfortunately, it has to be the protests versus coronavirus. The fact that that's even on play, that we view it in that relationship, and that Trump is putting that kind of story out, is in itself a problem, because both things are so important, and yet we're not going to get to the result of any of them for a very long time. Maybe our country will do more. I do not believe so.
If I learned anything from running the Wall of Love in Tampa a few years ago, in 2016 and 2017, the biggest lesson that I took away from that was that in times of protests, especially when it comes to LGBTQ people, the cops are not our friends. And I'm sorry to say that, and I'm sorry for the people that will be offended by that, but our movement started because of police brutality. Our movement started because of excessive force and abuse of the powers that the police have. So today, all these 51 years later, we're still dealing, as the man said, we're still dealing with the same problems. And it's important to remember, as Josie said, that protesting is dangerous. Protesting is not only a privilege, but it can be dangerous. And you have to be aware of those risks that you take when you protest or when you help protesters. The American government and law enforcement is not well known for being kind to protesters, especially queer ones.
Misty, Power, any thoughts?
Power can go.
I would like to point out, and I'm going to read this, that the Wake County Office use of force policy said that officers can't use weapons. This is in that town. Those officers, quote unquote, officers can't use weapons neither lethal nor less than lethal if people are only putting up passive or verbal resistance. So the use of those rubber bullets and those flashbangs was not within the policy use of force that police department has in play. Once again, we see that police officers will always think, in general, and this is coming from my Black experience, that police officers oftentimes think that once they don that badge, that they can do whatever they want to do, rules and policies be damned. But Black people have been telling y'all for centuries and decades that this was happening. The only difference is now it's being filmed. And what we're seeing is that it's being filmed and it's still happening. So you can only imagine how bad it was before shit got filmed. Because before, when we would say this and this happened, nobody believed us. Now you could see it for yourselves, and officers still try to lie on top of that, still try to get away with shit on top of that. They don't care. So the problem is systemic and it's institutional. And this is what we see being played out all across the country.
Final thoughts?
Final thought, I am shocked that they took fire, even if it was rubber bullets. I can't imagine being the people protecting their property during a riot, fearing, seeing, hearing the gunshots aimed at them, fearing that you're going to be killed by an officer right there. When I read this report, it did say that the police officers were not sorry for what they did, and they felt their mission was successful because it got them inside and off the street. They were trying to stop them from trying to help the protesters, from eye washing and giving them water. It's a very sad, sad story.
And how is that any different? We've got to move on, but how is that any different than Trump's demonstration of crossing out of the White House across Lafayette Park? It's the same justification. The ends do not justify the means. And by the way, we have to pay really close attention to this. A new poll this week reports that in the low 70 percentile of white America trusts our police now. And only in the upper 30 percentile does the black community of America trust our police. It's an indication our police forces all across the country need to do a better job. We thank you for joining us tonight at It's Happening Out. This show is propelled by your participation of liking and sharing us.
And we want to make sure that you like and share everything that we have to do on YouTube and on Facebook. And we've got a video prepared for you to help you make sure that you can do all of that so simply. So watch this.
When viewing our live show in your app, please click share. After clicking share, your screen should change and you can then click watch party. On the next screen, you can write text to your viewing audience and then click start watch party. You've done it. Enjoy your party.
All right, well, that's what you can do to help propel the show and have more people see it. Let's have some fun tonight, and let's begin with our meme of the week. The meme of the week kind of gives us a test of where we're at this week at It's Happening Out and in America. And this week's meme is called, none of us have seen it yet, I need to speak to the manager of Twitter. Let's look at this meme.
That looks right.
Is that their Karen wig?
I think it's the Kellyanne wig.
Oh. That's Ku Klux Karen.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God, I'm so a fan of that.
Anyone else?
There's no more things to be said after that.
Soundbite.
Yeah.
Ku Klux Klan.
All right. It's let's break and piggyback on that by drinking. It's always one of my favorite pastimes. It's time to play our fun drinking game. I'd swallow that. You can see we have shots in front of us, and you know how it plays. We invite you at home to do it. Get something to drink. I have to look. What are you drinking, Power? You're in isolation in God only knows where.
Gatorade.
Chardonnay.
Are you drinking Gatorade?
Yeah.
Really? No Chardonnay tonight?
Electrolytes are good for the liver. You feel more than liquor.
No Chablis tonight.
No Chablis. Right. The lady Chablis. Right. All right. Well, I'd swallow that. Of course, as you know, this is our first show in June's Pride Month. This is Pride Month. It's going to be difficult. We're going to talk about Pride Month a lot in the next 4 shows. And after the 50th anniversary of Stonewall in 2019, which was the biggest LGBT celebration in the history of the world, 2020 will go down in history also as the most unique LGBTQ pride since the Stonewall riots in 1969. We're going to tell you more about that later in the show. So tonight's I'd Swallow That is dedicated to our June Pride celebration. So if our hosts agree with the question, they're going to take the shot. If they don't touch the shot, and then we'll find out why. Question number 1, I'd swallow that. I have found new reasons to fight for pride.
New reasons?
I don't know about new reasons. Still fighting, though.
Pride is not just about queer rights, though. That is obviously the most important. LGBTQ, the queer. It's about minority rights. It's about everything. This is the year. This is everything. This is like the apocalypse year. Of course, there's more to fight about than just if you can, kiss a guy in public. Though that's important, I'll agree.
Other thoughts?
Still fighting. Don't.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I don't think there's a new reason. We have to fight because we've always had to fight. We just now have to fight in a different way.
I disagree with that. Because what I have learned in COVID in the last 5 months, our government will let us down. Now, that's not pessimism, that is fact. They will let us down.
So we don't have to keep fighting?
What I've learned in the last month in the protest of the Floyd murder is that we can't take our rights for granted. And I have heard this 1,000 times, but let me tell you, older white guy has learned it clearer than any time in his entire life.
Yeah.
I will never make rights an assumption ever again, and that's a new reason to fight for pride.
Yeah.
When a police officer is willing to say on camera, the fucking faggots
Yeah.
that are just standing peacefully demonstrating their constitutional rights, we got a big problem in America, and I'm going to fight.
But that's just one example. We were here in Fort Lauderdale where the cop was there pushing the woman down that was already on her knees, literally pushed her down. You can see that from footage from Fort Lauderdale on Sunday night, just 3 days ago. That was the story across the entire country, and I don't mean to paint the police as being the bad influence. It's just that's what's easy to portray when there are not human rights being discussed in a civil way.
And the damn shame is...
It's not a conspiracy theory when it's the truth.
Yeah,
right.
And the sad thing is, it's such a small percentage. So it's such a small percentage.
Yeah.
But my goodness, they suck all the oxygen out of the room.
Well, I have a new reason to fight for pride, and the reason is trans rights. Now, I'm an old school girl, so when we
I stopped listening after old. I'm old. Then I stopped listening.
When we used to, I one time I had told Aaron this, and Aaron and I got into it on social media over this. But back in the days, back in the Salvation days, back in the 90s, trans were there, but they were not as visible.
Right.
That's a fact.
Their safety was in passing.
Wait, what does that mean specifically?
You're right. They were, I remember Paloma de la Renti and, so many, other legends, but they were not as visible. They did not have the power that they have now. But right now, the attacks that used to come upon gay men and gays have kind of declined, and now we're seeing that really happen to our trans brothers and sisters. So we can't sit in our comfort zone and say, well, child, we have overcome, and now it's happening to them, so it really ain't about us. We haven't overcome at all, because if it's happening to them, it can always happen to us again. So we have to fight for our trans brothers and sisters, and that is a new fight for pride.
If we have a moment to clarify, I mean, I know the trans rights as being the forefront of the LGBTQ movement with Marsha P. Johnson. What are you talking about in terms of the 90s where that was silenced?
No.
I didn't say it was silenced.
Or
I
quieter.
said that they were not as visible. First of all, just because Marsha P. Johnson was around doesn't mean that there was a lot of Marsha P. Johnsons. They were not as visible. They were trans,
can I clarify a little bit?
They were not as... The trans power, the trans voice, the trans platform was not as visible. Trans individuals have now found their voice, they found their strength, they found their platform. That was not so before. That's what I mean.
And you were going to clarify?
I was just going to clarify a little bit what I think she might be saying. Back in the 90s, there was no gender queer. There was no gender nonconforming. There were no... When you came out as trans, you came out as a woman. You came out as a man. And when you went through your cocoon phase and your... I don't quite pass as female. You did that in privacy, and when you came out as a woman, most trans people tried to hide and blend in. There wasn't as much of a, hey, guess what? I'm trans, I'm queer, I'm this, I'm that.
That's right.
And you didn't notice it.
I want to move on to I'd swallow that question number 2. I'd swallow that. I will watch or participate in digital pride events this year.
Sure, yeah.
I take this shot reluctantly.
Why is it reluctant?
Yeah, why?
It's reluctant for me because it is so hard to create the same kind of visibility digitally in a pride celebration than it is on the streets. If you're on 42nd Street in New York, you are visible.
No.
If you are on Michigan Avenue in Chicago, you are visible. If you're protesting at Folsom in San Francisco, you're visible. Online, it is a completely different situation. I understand that we have no choice, but I reluctantly participate because it does not create the same kind of visibility. In fact, at Q, we reported this week that a very anti-LGBT Christian leader said, we are so thankful for COVID-19 because it drives all of the gays into the closet because they're going to celebrate their pride in June digitally.
I think I'm the only one that didn't. I think I'm the only one that didn't drink.
I didn't either, but I want to hear what Aaron has to say.
Yeah, Aaron, you were going to say?
Thanks. I'd like to offer the counterpoint because I actually think that this is a really exciting opportunity this year for young LGBTQ people and especially young trans people who otherwise would not be able to go to the live Pride events where they could go be visible and be embraced. There's a lot of queer kids and trans kids who are not able to, their parents are not going to condone them going to Pride if there's even a Pride in their area. And I think this is an opportunity for us to bring Pride to those people, bring Pride home to the people who otherwise wouldn't have a Pride in their town or wouldn't be able to get to it.
An interesting point that I didn't think of. Will they do that though, Aaron? Do you? Are you optimistic they'll do that?
Absolutely.
You
Yeah, it'll be very easy for little LGBTQ people to go to Pride events without any of their friends or family knowing.
This is a generation built on the internet. This is exactly the time when people that might not have had that opportunity before can actually be seen or heard, or at least part of a community that they might not have been prior. Hopefully.
On that voice, that trans voice and trans platform that Power talked about, I found that platform on the internet. My trans community, when I found it, and Misty, you probably had a similar experience. My trans community was on YouTube, it was on Tumblr, and was often on Facebook as well. And that is where I was able to find people to say, I was able to say, oh my God, there's people out there like me. So,
Power, something you wanted to add because you didn't take the shot. You're not participating in a digital Pride because?
Well, because it's boring to me.
DJ says it's boring.
Let me just be straight up. I like you, Al. I want to be out in the sunshine. I want to be out on the street. And I don't need to actually participate in a digital Pride to feel proud of who I am, But if I am going to do Pride, I want to do Pride, and so
you want to twirl.
That's just boring.
Power's always wanting to twirl.
There are two types of people in the world.
Let's move on to I'd Swallow That question number 3. I ask, I'd swallow that. I will miss the barely dressed hotties at Pride parties.
Sure.
Of course.
And while I reluctantly took the last one, this time I slam it.
This is a clear answer. Yes, of course. We all
Is Napoleon jumping in first?
Yes, I'm jumping in first, second, third, fourth, and fifth for everybody.
Okay.
Obviously, we're all
no one else
deprived.
needs to speak on this one.
We're all deprived of human contact. It is a physical need. It has been months. This is necessity.
Please, someone help the boy out.
That's it. You have a wife,
Do
all of you.
do any of us have really anything else to say other than Napoleon has needs? Because if not, let's move on to question number 4. Okay, good.
Napoleon has an awful lot of needs.
Shut up, Aaron.
All right.
What about me?
Silence my trans voice.
What about what I want?
The funny thing is, Napoleon does not read. All the rest of us are reading him.
I don't care. You're all wrong. You're all right.
All right. Question number 4. I'd swallow that. And here's a big question. Pride will survive.
Yes. Duh.
Oh, yeah.
Cheers to that one.
Thinker.
For sure.
That's like a big thinker.
I think this is the first time I've taken all my shots.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
I'm going to have difficulty with this show.
Is it hot in here to you guys?
David Hopkins. Mother, oh really? Really? I knew it. America, if I could only tell you what goes on behind the scenes here. All right, tell us why Pride's going to survive. Let's start with Josie.
What was the question again? No, just kidding. Will pride survive? Absolutely, guys. I
What
mean,
the hell's going on in that street?
We're getting drunk up in here.
Come on. Let's be real with each other, okay? Just because we have to take this online and it has to be virtual, there's a lot of things that thrive online. Just look at gay porn. So, you know, if gay porn can thrive, so can our entire community and our celebration of our community. You guys, listen, this is just a moment. We're adapting, okay? It's not going to be like this forever. This is one pride that's going to look different than all the rest, okay? That's it. Don't worry about it, but let's celebrate us, and let's put rainbow flags all over our profiles. Let's make sure that our social medias are rainbowed out. Let's make sure that if we can't take to the streets, that we are visible online. Let's go ahead and enroll our family and friends to join this online pride, and let's make it known. We may be at home, but we're not in the closet.
Right. All right.
Yeah, pride is a journey, not a destination.
I follow what you're selling. I'm sorry, I missed
one of our at-home.
Eric?
We've got a delay going on with me and Power. Go ahead, Power.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that I think
And
that
that's
last year we
that happens. Wait. That happens even when you're sitting at the table. By the way, there's a delay.
Oh my God! I can't believe that Clapback Live.
Go ahead, Power.
Or Aaron.
Well, I was gonna say that I think that last year we did it up so much that honey Jesus told us to sit down.
Take a break, girl. Take a break. Have a sheet.
Yeah.
That's great, Power.
Yeah, we're
Mother
resting.
Nature said, "Girl, sit down for a minute."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
pride is a journey, not a destination. Pride is a bigger thing and a bigger abstract concept than just the events themselves. Of course, it's going to survive because that's who we are.
Yeah, that's a great soundbite. Let's move out of I'd Swallow That. And we want to move on to tell you, and it's happening out. We love to look at celebrity hot topics. Josie, I'm going to punish you later. I'm just telling you.
Oh, wow. I'll get the cat of nine tails.
We love to look at celebrity hot topics in the news this week. We're going to look at several. First, Billie Eilish releases a powerful short film about body shaming. Before we and our host talk about it, let's watch this.
Always. And nothing I do goes unseen. So while I feel your stares, your disapproval,
I swear to goodness, this is a child, and she is so far
Turning the
ahead
party.
of her
Like 18.
years. Her Not My Responsibility showcases
so
how
great.
others think of you shouldn't matter to you.
Yeah.
What do you think about what Billie Eilish is telling
I think that
all
should
of
be
us?
taken in every interpretation allowed. Weight, height, gender identity, gender expression. Am I too fat, too skinny, too tall, too short, too freckled, too white, too black, too Asian, too anything? She made a very broad statement of, is my self-worth based on your opinion? And the answer is no. Girl, be who you want to be, and that's the tea.
I completely, and speaking of that, when you say that's the tea, I completely agree with everything you said. Can you be too trans, though? That's
No.
the one.
No.
I don't know. I heard too freckled, and that just again. We were talking about this over the break. I'm all obsessed with her brother because that's the ginger I'm I'm writing for, except for Prince Harry.
You're
getting, I'm getting way off topic. What are we even talking? He's a performer too. I don't remember what we're talking about. Let's pass it to Josie. Power.
Something's wrong with this child.
I was going to say, wait,
Power, man. You can't even
and do
save
some
the day,
therapy
Power.
here. Apply some therapy or some black church. Let's go to church.
Take me to church.
Well, I mean, I think the girl is on point. You know, I think the girl is on point. You know, after a while, you have to love yourself and you know, find your own skin and be comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
And everybody else be damned, honey. If you ugly, be the fiercest ugly bitch.
Fierce,
but whose interpretation of ugly?
I love that,
girl.
You know,
Girl.
but the
You're not conventionally
gonna
beautiful.
judge you ugly.
Find your beauty.
The world is going to judge you, and they're going to label you.
No matter
they're
what.
They're the ones that are going to judge that. But that just because they pass that judgment doesn't mean that judgment is so.
You know,
there was a line that really hit me, and there was a line that really hit me in the video that she said, which was, though you've never seen my body, you still judge it and judge me for it. That hit me from a trans perspective. That hit me hard. That really hit home for me, because you know, people make presumptions all the time about what kind of body I have going on underneath all of this, and you've never seen it. You've never seen it. I've never explained it to you, because if you're not going to be in my bed playing with it, it's really, truly none of your business.
True.
But yet, people will go on to make so many different conclusions and assumptions about you from there. And, you know, props to Billie Eilish this week, too, on also calling out people for, you know, making excuses. The All Lives Matter comments she called out this week, saying, stop making it about you. And I think this message also ties into her message of racial equality and racial issues as well. It's not just about loving yourself, but it's about really truly loving the core and identity of who you are.
Yeah, I love that observation. Thank you very much. Let's move on out of the Eilish story and move into a segment that we've done right from the very beginning. Our production team pays close attention to many pop culture things that are interesting. And if you knew how difficult this is to formulate all of these words, you would go, Al, you're doing a great job.
Almost like it's foreign names.
Right.
The back.
Exactly. We call this segment we're going to talk about now called the best thing of the week. Let's look at this week's best thing of the week as a pop star sneaks up on his model wife and a pop star daughter as they are baking with mask on, but not that kind of mask. The best thing of the week is Will Smith sneaking up on Jada and Willa in isolation. Watch this.
So Willow, and Jada are baking a cake. They're baking a cake, which is cool. The only thing I don't understand is why they need their skin to be right while they're baking the cake.
Boy, okay, see, now I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to make you the cake.
No, it's nice.
Stop. You're gonna get yours.
I whip my hair back and forth. I whip my hair back and forth.
No hair, girl.
Not anymore.
I've got hair somewhere. I'm sure.
Looks like Power.
What happened to her?
Girl, she whipped it too much.
Well, first off, what do y'all think about the people ride around in their cars with their mask on? I see them all the time.
That's a different kind of mask.
What?
That's self-care.
Yeah. Okay.
I see people with masks all the time, but that's been many years.
Well, now I know their secrets. Now I know how they have that flawless
Girl,
skin. I'm like, I was looking at the type of mask that was. I'm like, Marcy, are you watching? Can you make sure that we order those right
Oh
away?
wow, let's talk about RuPaul last 2 episodes. Damn.
I'm getting up there in the age now, yeah.
Acid mask. That's how you keep that moisture in. A good skincare routine is very important.
Very important.
And, you know, the Smith family is such like a wholesome family. I really liked seeing kind of the behind the scenes of their lives, because they're just such a cute damn family.
Yeah,
they are cute. I was going to make the joke that Napoleon's very youthful skin is because of a different kind of thing.
Oh,
face,
please
but
don't put that in my
not
mind.
during COVID.
Exactly. All right, let's move
yeah,
on.
totally
Our best
on.
thing of the week. Tonight, It's Happening Out launches our salute to June's Gay Pride Month. And because of COVID-19, a celebration different than ever before. Join us tonight as we celebrate Pride Month quietly, because there are no parades, by honoring Larry Kramer. LGBT Pride with no parades is what this segment is called. We celebrate Larry Kramer. Watch this. News tonight's celebration of June's Gay Pride Month. But this month will be like no Pride Month ever before. This year, in 2020, just a year after the largest LGBT worldwide celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, our prides this year are going to be quiet because of the COVID-19 coronavirus. This will be the year of LGBT Pride, quote unquote, no Pride celebration. We bring you unique stories this entire month, even in the event of cancellations, which have occurred, of New York, San Francisco, Chicago, and dozens more. The pride of the LGBT community this year is no parades. Tonight, Larry Kramer, ACT UP founder, activist, author, and warrior. Kramer died of pneumonia last Wednesday, and a major no-holds-barred member of our community will be remembered. Kramer was the founder of the militant group ACT UP. The group was the LGBTQ's militant community for acts of civil disobedience for awareness of AIDS. Similar to today's Me Too and Black Lives Matter, long before this type of activism was occurring. Here's a reminder. Watch this.
Today's demonstration is the latest of many staged by the militant group ACT UP, which has gained increasing influence on AIDS policy. The atmosphere at the meetings and at the group's headquarters is characterized by enthusiasm and belligerence toward established institutions. Playwright Larry Kramer started ACT UP to accelerate the AIDS drug approval process.
What right does the FDA and the NIH have to tell a dying person what he or she can do with her or his body?
ACT UP's strategy has been enormously successful in getting the Food and Drug Administration to loosen the regulation of new drugs for AIDS.
Kramer realized early on the threat to the gay community in the early 80s of AIDS. Kramer created ACT UP, Fight Back, Fight AIDS. Early on, Kramer waged a bitter war with someone we all recognize today, noted virus doctor Anthony Fauci. He and ACT UP warred and accused Fauci of incompetence. In 1985, he wrote the play, The Normal Heart. He was diagnosed with AIDS virus in 1988. He wrote extensively, and eventually the perceived need was realized of ACT UP. Fauci and Kramer, interestingly, later became friends. Fauci even helped him get into an experimental drug trial. Fauci was famously quoted as saying about Kramer, "Once you got past the rhetoric, you found Kramer made a lot of sense, and that he had a heart of gold." Kramer was nominated and was a winner of a Tony, Emmy, and Golden Globe awards. Larry Kramer was 84. Larry Kramer was a pioneer in our community and plays a central role of Gay Pride Month. LGBTQ, what we call the No Prides celebration, June 2020. Well, as we said, Gay Pride Month of June is going to be different than anything that we have experienced before because there are no parades coming. There's no massive demonstrations. There's no festivals. There's no big parties. There's no big gay clubs. It's not coming. So we're doing it quietly, and this is an example of celebrating Larry Kramer. What do y'all think about the loss and his role in LGBT history as the founder of ACT UP?
I like everything that he stood for. I like that he put his money where his mouth is, and I like the message of silence equals death.
And Aaron, I'm sorry.
I think the biggest thing to take away and to remember due to Larry Kramer's death is the parallels to what's going on today. Without riots, there would be no pride. If you do not support the riots or the uprisings that are happening today, when it comes to issues of race and when it comes to police brutality against people of color, against specifically Black people, then you should have sat home during Pride this year any damn way, virus or no. Because how can you condemn the exact same thing that our community finally did to take a stand against police and to take a stand against the abuses held against us?
Ooh.
If you don't support those movements today, then you don't support our movement and you have no place in it.
And let's be clear about his role as an artist and activist as well. Not only did he create an entire platform with A Normal Heart and other plays, including one that he was writing right now on coronavirus and the 3 plagues that have hit us as the LGBTQ nation. He was an influential artist that hit so many people, that inspired so many people. And for this to be something that happens during coronavirus, when we can't really properly mourn what's going on, is appalling, because we have to make sure that we pay dues to someone that is like him. He is one of those people on whose backs we are standing when we talk about LGBTQ rights. When we hear things like in Rent, act up, fight AIDS, that comes from him. These phrases come from him. He is somebody that is so influential in the LGBTQ art community, in the playwright community, that we don't even know exactly how much of a lasting reality he's actually had on us all.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, and I think it's really important to note this man who grew up or was born in a town I used to spend my summers in Bridgeport, Connecticut, was also a Yale University graduate. It goes to show you something about what we're talking about even today and how it's relevant in terms of white privilege, right? Here is a man who clearly came from a white privilege world, who instead of using his white privilege to advance his own agenda, he actually gave his white privilege to a cause. And so I have belief and I have hope that there are many like you, Al, okay, who are standing up in this moment and starting to realize how if you're white in this moment and you are not standing up and standing against the systemic injustice and systemic racism in our country right now, then you are a part of the problem.
Yeah, it's a fantastic conclusion to our celebration of June Pride Month. And every episode in this month, we're going to have a celebration of the LGBT movement. It's literally our version of the road to Stonewall.
Heroes.
Let's move to our segment of What's on Your Mind. Each of our hosts are getting ready to tell us in about 30 seconds what is important to them this week. We get to hear some of their important thoughts of what is impressing on them, what's going on in the world. So this is What's on Your Mind. And Aaron, let's start with you.
I'm wearing mine on my shirt this week. What's on my mind is film the police. Always, always. Film the police. And while we're at it, Chinga la Migra too, and Black Lives Matter. That's it.
Okay. And Power Infinity, what's on your mind this week?
Well, I just want to say and use this platform to say something and reiterate something that I said on social media. I don't give a damn about your neighborhood or your replaceable property over my black life. And I'm going to let everybody know that on national TV. I said what I said. When it comes to property damage and looting, white supremacy is a looter. White supremacy has looted our land, it's looted our lives, it's looted our freedoms, it's looted our dreams, and it's looted our black equality. So when it comes to property damage and looting and everything else that we're seeing out there, these things will come and go. Those things will be replaced. Those things will be resurrected. Black lives cannot. And we need to address the root cause of the problem, because riots are a symptom of the problem. Address the root cause and you won't have to live with the symptoms.
And what's on your mind this week, Chef Josie?
Oh man, there's a lot on my mind this week. I have a lot going on, and we have our city's on fire. And you can't go through your day without knowing and being present to the pain that's in the world right now, and just the feeling of being helpless and powerless against creating a solution. But I hold the space for us to find that solution. I hold the space for this awakening that's happening in the country. I hold the space for us to make a choice in November for a better future for all of us. And I hold the space for us to all move forward together.
And what's on your mind this week, Misty Eyez?
Yeah, I'm going to echo Power and Aaron on this one. What's happening in our current climate is very much on my mind, and the fact that Stonewall riots paved the way for gay pride and gay rights. That was the first gay pride celebration, but there's a huge difference between looters and protesters. And when I'm going to piggyback on what Power said and make it literal. She was talking a little bit more figurative about white supremacists have been looting from Black lives forever, since the beginning of time, and it's still happening. But what's also happening, literally, is white supremacists are dressing up in all black and putting on black corona masks and going out there and destroying sidewalks and throwing bricks through windows, and they're trying to ignite that fuel and that anger and that rage, and they're actually the ones starting the looting. I'm not saying that everyone's not following, but the white supremacists are igniting that protest rage. And it started by white people, and they've been arresting and catching a lot of white people. They're literally looting right now.
And what's on your mind, Napoleon?
Well, a lot of things after all of my fellow co-hosts. First, yes, film the police. I've done that for many years, and it has rewarded myself very well. But also on the streets, you want to film the police. Secondly, I completely separate from all of this, I've been thinking about my family. Today is my sister's 33rd birthday. Oh. I miss being home. They've gotten to meet a lot of the people here on cast and crew, and it is difficult to be away from them during Corona. It's difficult to be alone and the isolated person. But as far as it goes in the protests that we're discussing right now, it's worth noting that while there might be a lot of white rage of people that are against that, I'm so proud of a lot of the black majority locations, including where my family lives in Baltimore, for being smart enough, for having the capacity to make sure that they're not the ones that are looting and causing some of these problems. We're still seeing the protests in a healthy way versus some of this nonsense and the looting that we're seeing going on. I am so grateful for what we're seeing going on in our country. It's necessary.
Well, that's this week's What's on Your Mind that you hear from the individual host. It moves us into our topics, and tonight on It's Happening Out, we explore some hot topics, things that are really critically important in the LGBT community. Our topic number one is about Pride Month, and Pride was born in riots and a need to be seen as we fight for equality. Does that ring familiar to anyone of what we're watching in the world? Let's zero right in on this by watching this.
I know that if I come out, my family and many of the people I've grown up with will disown me. I know people like this. Watching other people come out makes me happy and gives me a sense of hope. Yet at the same time, it hurts that I can't bring myself to do the same.
But a new survey finds still many in the LGBTQ community do not feel comfortable even just going out at work. In fact, Glassdoor surveyed thousands of U.S. workers. They found nearly half of those who identified in this group believe coming out in the workplace could hurt their career.
They always expected to run into some challenges, but they never realized how severe they might be. After an untraditional vetting process with a Denver landlord, Tanya and Rachel were denied housing for no other reason than their loving relationship and Rachel's gender identity.
Living with AIDS is like living through a war which is happening only for those people who happen to be in the trenches. Every time a shell explodes, you look around and you discover that you've lost more of your friends. But nobody else notices. It isn't happening to them.
Pulse nightclub was not Orlando's most crowded venue that deadly Saturday night, but it was full, a popular go-to spot for the city's LGBT population, which may explain why it was struck. At vigils across the country, including this one in Washington, many expressed solidarity and outrage.
So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Well, we ask it directly. How has fear focused our gay rights movement, especially our celebrations in June? How has it influenced our fight? What does our LGBT community fear, and how has that helped us shape our fight today and for tomorrow? What do y'all think?
Well, to start off, I know that go for it.
Aaron?
Sorry, that delay again. It's so important to remember that coming out is a privilege, and that being proud and being out and proud and loud and going to Pride and all these things are privileges. There are so many people within our community who are not able to do the same thing. And then when they do, the line about that silent personal war that no one else knows you're fighting when you come out, really, that echoed for me. When my partner came out, which was only recently because of our relationship. He'd been bi his whole life or pansexual his whole life, but only recently needed to come out. And he had to kind of battle that on his own. And I was watching him go through this process of losing friends and fighting with family members and having to explain things to people whose business it really wasn't. And it was hard. It was hard for him to go through that, and he had to largely go through it alone. It was very eye-opening to me as someone who came out so young to see how hard it still is today, especially in the South, to come out as an adult.
To that point specifically, what do you think about a very preponderance of reporting that shows very young LGBT members of our community in their teens up until their mid-20s basically say, I don't understand what the big deal is. I'm completely fine. They think the fight's over.
It shows a lack of awareness of social justice and what we've gone through in our entire several decades, and that's part of what comes with aging. I understand that. That's why prides in the physical location, which we're not having this year, are so crucial. But I completely disagree with you, Aaron. As much as I think that it is a necessity for people to come out, it is not a privilege. It's not maybe not a right, but it is something that all people deserve to have, and it is not something that is a luxury for people to go through. Maybe all people do not get that, especially interculturally around the world. That is not taking it away. It is a human right.
I never said it was a luxury.
Privilege.
I never said it was a luxury. And I think that's an important thing to distinguish, because I think that a lot of people hear the word privilege and they do associate that with a luxury. They associate that with meaning things are easy for me. You can have privilege, the privilege to be able to come out and be safe and still sustain your life and not be kicked out of your home or not end up on the street or not lose your job. It still may be hard, but that does not mean you have not had the privilege to do so. It may not, just the same thing applies when it comes to race. Just because you have white privilege doesn't mean you've had an easy white life. It just means that you've had a privilege that not everyone is afforded. And it's important to use those privileges to continue to speak up for those who don't have them.
To that observation, I want to refine back to our focus. Do you think going forward that we live in the celebration or our movement of Pride, specifically in June, is based on fear, or have we moved beyond the fear stage? We no longer fear, so as a result, we don't use that as a catalyst for our Pride event.
I think if you look at the youth, which is who you're talking about, right? How even Napoleon says that we're, they're living this life basically disconnected from the reality of the struggle prior in history, historical struggle. I hope that we have evolved past the fear. I hope that in this moment that the elders who are here, the baby elders like myself, who know what is happening, are still connected to that struggle, can continue to inspire our young LGBTQ youth and let them go armed and ready into the future, and let them fly, let them walk without boundaries, let them walk without shame, let them walk without hate, let them walk without fear. This is what we all fought for. That's why we all protested, so that one day our generation of LGBT members of our community could live this life without fear. So let's continue to move that that
And you
month
know,
and
there
forward.
is still plenty to fear for a lot of us. There is still plenty to fear. You know, long before COVID-19 came around, I spent a lot of time in my house because of fear. And I think what's important in our community, especially the trans community, is to focus our conversation less so much on fear itself and more on courage. Because courage is having bravery and getting through something and working and walking through something despite your fear. You know, we rise up in spite of the
Go ahead,
ache, in
Howard.
spite of the fear, in spite of the worry, not because it's gone.
I'm hesitant to say that we have passed and we don't have any fear anymore, because as soon as we start saying that we don't have any fear, then something else rears its ugly head and shows us that we still have miles to go. Furthermore, those of us in the community that have gotten to a certain place of safety have to realize that there's other people in our community that are not there yet, that still have fears to overcome and still have challenges that some segments of our community don't have to experience. So I think that if we as a community together cannot say that we don't have fears, then fears still abound.
Final thoughts?
For the most part, I agree with everyone that our community as a whole has elevated out of the fear stage, but not for everyone in the world. For example, if I go home to Alaska, that's kind of a scary, right-wing, redneck, hillbilly kind of place to live. And with our current president, heaven forbid, if he gets reelected, I think all of us will live in fear. And unfortunately for trans people, I think we are going to live in fear for a long time. People are trying to erase our rights right in front of us, literally, and that is scary.
Succeeding.
Well, I want to, interesting conversation there in terms of living in fear as we celebrate Gay Pride in the month of June. I want to move to our second hot topic that we want to talk about tonight, and of course, we know what the topic is all about. It's about the protests we're watching. And protests have erupted across the country. We call it here at It's Happening Out, Fed Up Rising. Basically, let's kind of do a synopsis of what we feel about what we've watched in the last week. Since last Wednesday when we came on the air, so much has happened. Who wants to start in terms of what their feelings are and what we've watched and where we're going with this?
You know, my heart is broken. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
go
ahead, Power.
Power.
Well, let me just say this, that this show right here tonight is probably the hardest show for me to sit in. Harder even than the show last year when I came back on after my brother died. This show. And the reason why this show is hard for me is because I am so filled with anger and so filled with rage and so filled with hatred. And yes, hatred. I am angry because I know exactly what other Black people are going through, because I've gone through it myself. I was a victim of police brutality, so I have a deep-seated rage and hatred and distrust for the police. And when I see these things happening, I don't think that the protests that are violent and the rioting is ideal. That is not what you want to see, but it's understandable. And unfortunately, what I'm disappointed in is that a lot of our own gay community is showing their ass. Especially this week, you're seeing a lot of people that you thought were your friends, that you thought that you knew, that you thought you had on your friends list, revealing themselves to be racially insensitive, if not racist. And I find it very amazing that we as a gay community had no problem with Black and brown people that led the riots that allowed us to sit on our ass right now and benefit from the progress that we have made as a community. Nobody had a problem with Black and brown people leading the riot that we benefit from now. But now that Black people are actually rioting and fighting for our very own lives, now there's a problem. Now it's problematic. I find that very hypocritical, and that's really what my frustration is. I mean, I'm really disappointed in a lot of the gay community, but I also have to say I'm very, very proud and thankful for the majority of our community that is standing up, that is speaking up, that is speaking out, and standing in solidarity with the Black community. I am so thankful for you guys, and if any of you guys are watching, thank you, thank you, thank you for your voice, thank you for your stand, and thank you for your solidarity. We really appreciate it.
Power, I'm really required, to my gut. First off, that washes over me just dramatically, in my sorrow that you even feel this way. But I'm forced to ask, just really succinctly, what is it that you want to see come from all of this? Real succinctly.
I want to see accountability first and foremost. I want to finally see accountability for actions that are taken by the police department. I want to see an overall change in the criminal justice system in this country. I want to see a removal of the protections that police have whenever they do the things that they do that are criminal when it comes to Black people and people in general that they police. There is and I want to see this done uniformly around the country, so that it is not just one segment, one city, one municipality. It is something that is broad and far-reaching. There needs to be a total change because, like Josie said last week, this is systemic. It's institutional. So just concentrating on George Floyd is not going to do any good if it only changes Minneapolis. It needs to change all across the country.
But that's exactly
what I'd like to see.
That's exactly the point. Every single city, that's what's being reported on the news. Every city has its own person. It's their George Floyd. It's their Freddie Gray. It's their whomever. And that's, of course, who I go to from Baltimore. And that's part of what I don't have any problem with it being LGBTQ versus not. Honestly, in this conversation, I quite frankly don't care about that. What's so upsetting for me personally, and I am aware that I am not a person of color that maybe has the same right to speak on as what you're describing, but that this has a level of humanity behind it that is just being completely ignored, that it doesn't seem to matter that all human lives are of equivalent value, and what we're seeing happen is that being completely discriminated upon, that we're not seeing that take any sort of reality as far as our own government actions go, and that's what's so disheartening to me. I know that I have built my entire life on believing that the right thing and the moral thing is going to happen, and that's what we'll see. That's not only not happened in the last 5 years, maybe ever, but especially not in these kinds of situations. And that's why it's so difficult, because this is the only result. This is the only thing we could see happen is 5 years, 10 years, 15 years of this happening, and maybe this causing some change, which would not have happened before and maybe still won't happen now.
Power, I want to piggyback on what is it that you want. My conclusion to what you want in a different way has already been shattered. My shattering took place at Pulse and gun mass shootings. And this is it. It has broken a straw. The camel's back is broken. We're sitting here, next week will be the 4th anniversary of Pulse, next week. And nothing has changed. In fact, it's gotten worse. So I'm curious, without being pessimistic, because I'm a realist, not a pessimist. They're different. But the realist in me says, nothing is going to come from this. What do you think about that challenge?
Let me be a pessimist. And the reason I'd like to be a pessimist is because I would like to be pleasantly surprised. So I agree with you that nothing is going to come from this. That being said, I'm hopeful that something will. The reason I'm a pessimist about anything positive coming from this is because it's been over 450 years. Over 450 years. And we still see the same thing happening and happening. We do have the hope that every single generation is better than the one before, and every generation is more enlightened. So I think that for the younger people going forward, things will be better. But will they be ever good enough? I don't know. And that, to me, is the problem. That's the tragedy.
All right, that's a great answer. Any final thoughts here about?
I've seen a lot of stories this week come out. About other incidences of police violence, other incidences of officer-involved shootings, and we're seeing just ever so slightly this change in the culture and this sudden accountability being demanded in certain places. And it's probably just the beginning. But my best friend and mentor this week, Donna Davis, posted one of these stories and said, in the beginning, it was like watching grass grow. And I think that really put things back into perspective for me about how we are fighting today for the people who will call us their ancestors. That is kind of the curse and blessing of activism, is that we don't necessarily always see the fruits of our labors. When we look back over the movement over decades, that's when we see that slow change. Unfortunately, that's what makes activism so hard, is that you have to stay in it even when you feel like you're not seeing anything change, because you are setting the seeds for that grass to start growing as the years go on.
I unfortunately, I've got to bring this to an end because we have other things that we want to talk about. But I just want to tell you, America, you're watching breaking news as it happens. Aaron Phoenix is optimistic tonight on what's happening. No.
And on a positive note.
Just for a moment. All right, let's continue and let's move into our segment called Saved by the Bell. Tonight we present Saved by the Bell as a short review of LGBTQ headlines and stories with an LGBT perspective. Saved by the Bell is a quick 60 to 90 seconds each of different story topics. And if when we get to that time period, I'm going to ring the bell, and that's exactly what you're going to hear. And our host is obligated to stop in mid-sentence. And as I always say, I really hope to catch power right in mid-syllable. It's the highlight of my entire week.
Who gets to ring the bell on Al?
Exactly. All right. So
and he can keep that hope alive.
Yes, I will. Wait, you're doing some kind of MLK kind of?
She's going to protest.
Let me fan the flame here, okay?
All right. Let's play Saved by the Bell and talk about a lot of important things to our community. Headline story number 1: RuPaul's Drag Race. Oh, I know power's coming in on this one. RuPaul's Drag Race finale. It's the first time ever on Friday night it was done in isolation.
And the crowd goes wild.
All right.
I mean, RuPaul must own stock in this company, girl. I'm telling you, girl. If we don't mention a motherfucking RuPaul,
How long has it been, Power? Come on.
Last week.
Not long enough.
It's been barely. And by the way, Gigi deserved to win, even if I'm Like a Bird was clearly the best puppetry mastery that we've seen in a very long time.
To be fair, I have not watched the episode. I have not watched any of this year's season, to be fair. But I will say my husband watches WWE. And it's very weird to watch with no audience. It's like they're in dress rehearsal and it's just practice. There's no sound effects. There's no cheering. It's
WWE
creepy.
is like the one white person thing that I occasionally participate in. And I saw, was it SmackDown or whatever their big event was this year? My son Lucas was actually brought, I don't know if it's called a pay-per-view anymore, but he was watching it, and it was the most awkward, uncomfortable thing. It was just guys breathing heavy into their mics and on each other.
Exactly.
No audience reaction. They actually had to act, which made it really.
I love that we have a lip sync on while we're discussing the WWE.
Congratulations that we talked about wrestling through RuPaul's Drag Race.
It's that mask.
No, Gigi.
It's that mask.
Yeah.
I knew power.
The face bikini.
Right. Saved by the Bell, headline number 2. Now let's go to the Queen of Mean. Betsy DeVos threatens to cut all federal funding if Connecticut schools allow any trans athletes.
Listen, this is the importance of elections, guys. In November, we have a choice. to put someone in the office who will help start healing this country, and not only that, start appointing judges that will keep legislation fair. Okay, if it can be fought in court, guys, and get put in front of a judge, these are the kind of cases that can go in front of conservative judges and go against young trans people in schools just trying to be themselves and play sports. There's enough studies, and I think my boy Aaron is going to help fill us in. There's enough studies that support that young trans girls, M to Fs, show that their testosterone levels are lower than even some of the female athletes. So cisgender female athletes. So let's get it together. But remember, November 3rd, guys, go register to vote. These elections, they are important, and they put judges on the bench.
Retweet. I want to retweet what she said. Vote, vote, vote. Your vote is very important, especially this year. But also, this reminds me of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. When she applied at Harvard Law, the world went apeshit crazy because there was 3 women taking seats of male students, and how dare they? And women don't need to go to school, and women don't need rights. Well, where are those people cheering for the trans students? How dare they take a seat of a cis woman? That's not fair. They need to.
You've got seconds if you would like to add.
Yeah, I think this is one of the small-ish, not really that small, but one of the examples of exactly what Josie said, where your vote is going to make a difference. And it's not just about, listen, I am not fucking excited about voting for Joe Biden, okay? Let's be real about this shit right now. Let's be real. I am not super excited. However, okay, Joe Biden is a racist. Joe Biden might be a rapist. Okay, we've been electing racists for our country's entire history. Okay,
well said.
But when it comes down to it, one rapist racist versus the other rapist racist are going to put people in seats, in congressional seats, or not congressional seats, in court seats that are going to drastically change our rights for decades to come. These things have ripple effects that occur long after the next old white guy in the White House is gone. So you've got to think these things through. If you're thinking about a protest vote, you're throwing my community under the bus. Please think it through.
I just want to point out to all of the hosts, if you do not think I was liberal on the time there, I'm just
2 minutes and 40 minutes.
Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell. I did have it, but Saved by the Bell, headline 3. The sheriff of Flint, Michigan marched with George Floyd protesters.
I think this is beautiful.
Good for him. Good for him. I mean, this is something, he is an example. I still don't do police, but I mean, if I was going to do police, this is an example of, somebody I might give my trust to.
Wait, let's reframe this. Let's reframe the question. Might you do a policeman at a circuit party?
Oh, I've done policemen.
I mean, there's,
Who hasn't?
At many circuit parties, but, that's a far cry from
conversation.
But, and, also interesting to note the police chief or sheriff of
Michigan,
Houston, where my mother lives, also marched with the crowd. So this is a great example for police across the land. Get engaged, get involved, and get in there with your community.
I read a tweet, guys, and I share this because this was a different perspective. But I read a tweet by a black woman who said cops walking with protesters are like abusive, partners who fight with you and beat you up and then bring flowers to apologize. They're the ones who scream at you behind closed doors and then stand with you and laugh with you with your friends in the front. But what she said is, don't fall for it. Now, I don't know if that's, one sentiment, but it's something that I read and I know it's out there.
No, we can't just say all police are evil and they're abusers. How can we ever win if we're going to say that?
A great moment. Saved by the Bell, headline number 4. Grindr is removing its racial filter
Good for
to support Black Lives Matter.
Napoleon, take it.
Speaking of Grindr,
you're our Grindr expert.
that should be my title. I have a PhD in Grindr. And by the way, everything about it is accurate. People should be going on there for fun. I don't know what that means in a time of social quasi-isolation when everyone's getting back to normal, which means hooking up, every other day.
What do you think about the racial filter removal?
Oh, good.
You think it's good? I think they need to remove all profiles that say no fats, no femmes, no Asians, whatever, isolation. I think...
Show me your dick.
You're showing your true prejudice on Grindr on a daily basis, and that's disgusting.
I'm curious because I do not know. On Grindr, are you able to say I'm not interested in trans people?
Yes.
You can say that.
You can say anything you want.
You can say anything you want. You can say I'm a bareback bottom who only dates big dicks.
Yeah. And
you can say whatever you want.
And trans is a group in it, like how you would have clean cut, whatever, tribe as they define it, clean cut or rugged or twink or jock or
Come on, Aaron,
leather.
jump in there,
You better jump quick, Aaron, because time's almost up.
Well, no, I'm clarifying, I think, because the filter that's being applied is a matter of, like, you can filter out who even shows up for you based on race or based on orientation or whatever. So it sounds to me like you can't go on your profile and say, all right, I only want to search for white guys today. Is that what this is essentially doing?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I
don't know that it's really that it's really making much of a difference, but.
Still block anybody.
All right, Saved by the Bell. Headline number 5.
Rioting
Americans
in the studio.
versus a COVID-19 vaccine. A new poll shows that even if we have one, or when we have one, less than half of Americans, only 49%, will even take it.
I see the point of this. There has not been a phase 1, phase 2 trial. It takes a long time. I get my flu shot every year, but I know that that's tested and true. I don't know if I'm going to be the first one in line for a COVID vaccine. It hasn't even been a year. I'm scared.
And we don't even know who's going to come up with the vaccine. It could be Johnson & Johnson, or it's probably going to be Gilead, who's going to, enslave all of women that exist in this country, according to the
I'll be a Martha, just so we're clear.
I think the bigger issue in this poll, and I understand the security fears, especially developed under President Trump and what we have watched, the botched response we have. But this is also saying something about our trust in our entire medical system.
Well, and when you take a look at the chart and you see how Black Americans are very untrusting to the system, we're seeing that. And I mean, 49% of the Americans don't trust that we're gonna that this virus is going to be safe or it will work.
There we go.
He waited for you, Power.
Saved by the Bell.
But he didn't do it while I was talking.
You were talking there.
He's got
Saved by the Bell. Headline number 6. This is my favorite of the night. Ivanka sends a pride tweet. As Trump, and with rainbows in it, it was just horrible. As Trump gasses peaceful protesters simultaneously for a publicity photo at the church. And by the way, she walked with him. She had the Bible in her purse. She handed it to him for the photo op. Ivanka, what do we think?
I'm telling you, this is Handmaid's Tale. When I watch the Trump family, I'm seeing a replay of the Handmaid's Tale, the reality TV version. Okay, this is scary stuff, true. And I say scary in a big word, but is a word I don't want to use. Like, I'm not really scared, but it is something that we all need to be paying attention to. Every single optic that the Trump family is putting out there is intentional. Every moment when he moves and he gasses peaceful protesters to make his way for this photo op, that is intentional. We need to be careful.
And that goes into the conversations we have about him, too, that we're still talking about the nonsense he pulls forward.
There we go. Saved by the Bell. Our final tonight is headline number 7. Racist gay porn star calls the cops to shoot black protesters as Black Lives Matter rises up against police brutality. What the fuck? We're talking about Billy Santoro.
Okay,
Power, you want to jump in?
Here you go. Yes, I'm going to jump in on this one. So this child went and he has made a racist comment, not just this comment that cops should shoot blacks, but he has also said that blacks will just breed more hatred towards them if protests cause property damage. He has also said about black trans women that you are fooling yourself if you think that black trans women aren't being murdered by their own community, once again putting it back on blacks. And he has made vile and horrific comments before. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but he just tried to commit suicide. He tried to commit suicide, I guess it was yesterday or a couple days ago,
No, I haven't
due
heard
to the
that.
backlash.
Changes
Yes,
the scene.
so breaking news here on It's Happening Out. He tried to commit suicide due to the backlash that that occurred after his nasty tweets, after his nasty statements, multiples. He apologized on multiple platforms, but of course people kept ripping him apart and scalping him. And then his boyfriend posted a picture of him in a hospital bed and said, he's apologized, please just leave him alone. He tried to commit suicide. You know, I don't want anybody to commit suicide, but you know, he really has to be held accountable for his words.
All right, that's our headlines today at Saved by the Bell. As we moved out of our short stories today of Saved by the Bell, let's play another game. Let's play Shag, Marry, Chop. It's a game that asks our host who and why, everybody knows what I'm talking about, and what they would do.
Why?
So let's play Shag, Marry, Chop. Tonight, in honor of Gay Pride Month and our first show of June Gay Pride, we focus on the hottest LGBTQ activists of our TV past. These are our big activists from our television past. They are Wilson Cruz, because David in our production department is just so thirsty. That's why Wilson Cruz is in this. And then Pedro Zamora. And then Neil Patrick Harris. All right, so who wants to start,
Who's
rather?
Pedro Zamora?
Shag, Marry, Chop.
Well, I'm just going to say this. It would probably be awkward if I shagged any of these boys because I don't even know how we would get to the, moment, honestly.
They're activists. Okay. Come on. Why has that never been a problem?
No, I'm just going to say,
LGBTQ.
because I have nothing but respect for these boys, okay?
Yeah.
Wilson and Cruz and I, we've done events together.
Oh,
Neil Patrick
my.
Harris and I shared the center page of the Inquirer. We trust. I have respect for these guys. And, Mr. Pedro Zamora, he's just so cute as pie. But there's no sex appeal here for me, guys.
Here's the Shag.
Yeah.
Who would that be?
I'm going to shag Wilson Cruz.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who
That's
is
your
your
so-called
Mary?
life, Josie.
I'm going to marry Neil Patrick Harris, even though he's already married.
He's funny.
Yeah.
So you
And
can
a
live
magician.
With,
No,
and
he's
so you're chopping Pedro.
I'm chopping Pedro because you're too cute and there just was no
All right.
chemistry.
Great. Who's next? Who wants to play next? Napoleon. You
Okay. So again, just because of all the work that I know personally that Wilson Cruz has done, I will go with that for my Shag. For my Mary, Neil Patrick Harris. Come on,
I smell a trend, by the way, of the entire
we
show.
were just talking about him being a magician. Come on, Napoleon plays. Magicians are playful, and also his husband is super sexy. Yeah. That would be personally amazing. I think it's just a video we have for Pedro because it's like his
not buy one, get one
1982 version.
No, it's
it is.
Buy one, get
Of course it is. That's how gay relationships work.
And who?
No,
who would you? It is.
Gay relationships work. You have a straight relationship, so you don't get to count relationships.
Are you discrediting my 30 years of a gay life?
Yes.
Who would you marry, Napoleon?
Mary is Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
and your chop is Pedro. Also.
I know it sucks,
Who's
right?
next?
Oh.
Before we go to digital land, let's do Mizdi.
Sure. I'm going to admit that I have met Wilson Cruz in real life, and I'm still shagging him.
Shagging Wilson.
But I'm going to marry Pedro Zamora. I don't even know. Is he from MTV Real World or something?
I don't know. Is he?
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm marrying him.
Cute.
And then, I'm sorry.
You are ungatriotic. Shagging. I mean,
I'm not
Neil
attracted
Patrick
to blondes.
Harris.
I was a blonde until I was 16 years old.
I
lost my mic from this.
Neil Patrick Harris?
That's all color. Let me tell you.
Whatever.
All right, let's move digitally. Aaron, Power, who's first? Aaron.
All right, I'll go first. I'm first. I'm definitely, let me see, I'm going to shag Pedro Zamora. Can I get like the options back on the screen? Or I'm gonna shag Pedro Zamora. He's pretty hot.
Yes.
I'm definitely marrying Wilson Cruz. Oh my God, when he was in My So-Called Life in the 90s, I wanted to be him, not just shag him. I wanted to be him. Like, that's how I wanted to be when I grew up. And I don't know if you've seen pictures of him today, but he has aged beautifully.
Great.
And then I'm chopping Neil Patrick Harris because he's white.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Sorry,
So
girl.
you're not going to give
Sorry, girl.
him the same treatment you gave me?
Toxic Mexicanality. Toxic Mexicanality.
Wow, blondes,
All right, Power. Who are you choosing? Who are you shagging?
Well, just like that GIF. That's racist. To Aaron.
Right.
Okay, well, so Josie, Josie, I can understand Josie's pain. I can understand Josie's struggle because y'all did this to me when I had to choose between Kevin Aviance and Kitty Meow and all, my sisters. So I can understand where Josie's coming from. But I will say this: I am going to shag Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh.
I'm going to shag him, yeah. I am definitely going to marry Wilson Cruz because, like Aaron said, underneath that suit, his body is bang motherfucking-ing.
Oh, yeah.
He has like a 12-pack. He has like pecs galore. He is
Sorry,
ripped
12
and
what?
sinewy.
Pack.
He has a 12-pack. He is ripped and
12
sinewy. I live for him. And Pedro Zamora, I think he is the most iconic of the three. However, him and I can only be friends. So,
Fortunately, I don't have to play, and I'm not going to tonight. But the one thing I would say about Wilson Cruz, he has one of the most beautiful smiles I have ever seen in my entire life. Stunning smile. Before we end our show tonight, we want to remind you of our one of our big show sponsors, and that is Jets Pizza. I'm going to try to hold it up.
Juicy,
they are
Meaty,
here
oily.
in South Florida. It's Detroit-style pizza. If you come into South Florida, which we're getting ready to invite you back, you got to come back to South
Are
Florida.
they providing contactless delivery right now? Because that's really important.
Actually, they do absolutely do that.
Good. Calling them as soon as we hang up.
That's exactly.
Aaron misses the
next, we want to tell you it's time to say goodnight. When you see the pizza, it's time to say goodnight. And before we finish, we want to hear from all of the hosts and have that opportunity. And let's start with you, Aaron. Since you were speaking, let's begin with you.
Black Lives Matter. Protests are important, and without riots, there'd be no pride. Keep all of it in mind and educate yourself if you don't know why. Have a good night, everybody. Tune in with us next week.
And Power Infinity.
Good night, children. I'm mad, I'm frustrated, but you want to know what? So is the rest of the nation. So what I would like you guys to do is I'd like you guys to keep that same energy that we have now, all that rioting and that protest and that looting and all that shit, take that to the ballot box November 3rd and vote.
Absolutely.
Keep it right here, and it's happening out.
Yeah, and to Napoleon Place.
Y'all are tuning in because you're part of the LGBTQIA community. And as much as this has been a crazy year, we have hurricanes, we have public health crises, we have murder hornets infecting our nation, we have riots that are causing social change. Remember to play every day, every way. All of these important things matter so intensely, and so does your connection to the human awareness and other people that are around you. So remember to have some pizza, play some games, and have some fun.
You know, America, the value of the show is just proven. Where in the world are you going to watch an LGBT show that talks about COVID, race riots, and murder hornets all in the same show? I'm just saying.
Come to the Jew.
And good night from Misty Eyez.
Yes, I'm also going to echo the sentiment of my siblings on the show. Black Lives Matter, Black and Brown Lives Matter, Trans Lives Matter, Gay Lives Matter. And when we're talking about Black lives, it's all Black lives. I think oftentimes the trans and LGBTQ Black lives are not as mattering, and that's very sad. We need to especially stand with our Black and Brown LGBTQ brothers and sisters because they're being segregated within their own community. And I will never understand the pain and the struggle of being in dark skin, but I will stand with you.
And to Chef Josie.
Our cities are on fire. Our hearts are broken. Our spirits are in shambles. This is the moment when all of the folks out there going through this experience have an opportunity to rise to the occasion. We have the choice in this moment to choose how the rest of our lives are going to look. You have the choice. Whether we're going to burn the cities down, we're going to burn our lives down, or we're going to recreate this world exactly as it should have been from the beginning. You guys stay healthy, stay safe, stay positive, and visit me at chefjosie2020.com.
Yeah, right. Plug. We thank you for joining the most popular live gay TV show in the world. We hope tonight we've showed you why we've become that. 2020 has been a difficult year, clearly, for the LGBTQ community. We started with a mysterious virus in China. It moved to Europe, then to New York, and then to the rest of all of us. 2 months of Trump's White House inaction, lack of leadership, and misdirection has created the greatest crisis of our lifetime, called coronavirus. Then it became a pandemic. Now we're watching pent-up rage leading to protests, even rioting, looting, and burning, as we all know. Now, the apparent loss of our month-long celebration of LGBTQ pride and our celebration of how it started at Stonewall in 1969. It literally has been a very tough year, but our shared experiences means that we are going to get through this because we are together, and it will get better. We all gather here every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. to talk about all of these things. We're like LGBTQ therapy for each other, certainly among the 6 of us, and we hope we included you too. So remember, if it's important to you, it's happening out, and we'll see you next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Good night, America.